private lessons to learn moves, please. No.
For private with me these days, the process that I'm going through is that I will really focus on the things that I understand are going to make the biggest impact in your dance. And we might not get to do the things that you wanted to do in the first place. Are you okay with that?
It's amazing when we can teach somebody who is hungry. I love that because private lesson is a moment for you to have anything happen. Any good, any bad, any funny, any awkward, anything, because there's no audience, nobody's there to judge, nobody's there to watch and look at you in a way that makes you feel pressured.
I have done hours of private lesson on Lambada one time and learned so much stuff. I did not integrate. So a couple months went by, it's almost like I didn't do the private lesson at all. I forgot everything.
Yeah, when people say, I know, or I've done this, I'm like, okay, you've done this, but do you know it? And then people say, oh, no, yeah, I know. I'm like, do you know? Because if you knew, we wouldn't be correcting this. If you knew, you wouldn't be having problems with this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Alisson Sanji, and let's welcome once again our beautiful co-host, Gui Prada. Hello, Gui.
Hello, Alisson. Hello, everybody. And we are back to being away from each other.
I know.
So many episodes.
Sad.
Yeah, I'm back in DC. Alisson is still in Taipei. So we are back into each one alone in our rooms.
Recording from afar, but still pretty much in the same room mentally. And today we want to be talking about private lessons. Wow, this is a topic that a lot of you have requested over time for us to distill and discuss a little bit more. And there's so many ways, so many paths that we can take into this. But today we're going to focus on what are private lessons actually for? Why do people do private lessons? Why should they, or why should not? What are the reasons why most people who do take private lessons take private lessons? One of the reasons that I see a lot that I'm gonna put out here already, I don't agree with, which is to learn moves. Okay, so private lessons to learn moves, please. No, I think that it's something that we see a lot, especially in festivals. When you see people who are taking private lessons here and there, they go to that teacher because they want to learn that move. That is something that luckily, I think, because Guy and I already present ourselves in our workshops and weekenders in a deeper way, in a more methodical, structural way, I don't think we get that many of those requests for like, hey, can you teach me how to do that move? Maybe I'll speak for myself. We get something like, hey, I would like to do this kind of thing that you do. Can you teach me how you do it and the technique that you use to do these kind of things instead of a very specific move? How about you, Guy? How does that go for you? And how do you see that in the community?
About private lessons or the ones to teach moves?
Both,
yeah. The private lesson to teach a move and to learn a move. I have been called to, somebody came to me with a video, with a part of a video. I wanted to learn that move. When it's a move from me, when it's a video that I am dancing, I gladly break it down because I have the chance to tell the person that that move that they are seeing is probably a move that they know how to do. It's more the way that I'm doing. It looks different, but it's something that they know how to do. I've had many times that person said, oh, can you teach me how to do this? And like, this is a yo-yo. And like, person, is a yo-yo?
Yes.
And then I said, yeah, it is a yo-yo. Look at the footwork. It's just that I'm doing this. I'm going to that way. I'm going that way. I'm just playing with a variation. And that is always fun to me to show the person that they are seeing something that they probably know how to do. And I have had other opportunities in which the person came to me with a video from someone else wanting to learn that move and if I could help them. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. And for me as a teacher is a really interesting dilemma that I find myself at times when the person wants to learn a particular movement. Sometimes I am not opposed, and I really like teaching it when I see that more vocabulary would be nice for that person. We dance a little bit in the beginning of especially if it's a leader that I'm talking about. When it's a leader, I dance with them in the first dances and everything. And for my understanding overall, everything feels really, really, really nice, unless they have something really specific that they want to work on. And I have a hard time pointing out. I go to a movement as a suggestion of something that they could introduce to give more circularity or more linearity. So add variation to their dance. So when I see teaching a move as expanding the horizons and teaching a vocabulary upgrade, like a different way to see things, I really like it. I have a hard time when I can notice all these things that we could have been talking about, and the person really wants to learn the move. That's when I have much harder time with, and I am starting to think that I might need to be more upfront about that aspect and say, this is what I'm going to prioritize in my private lessons. I actually did that a couple of times already, actually. I asked them what they wanted to work on, and they told me things. And my response was, thank you for letting me know that you want to work on these things. For a private with me these days, the process that I'm going through is that I will really focus on the things that I understand are going to make the biggest impact in your dance. And we might not get to do the things that you wanted to do in the first place. Are you okay with that? Being more upfront on that sense. So for private lessons now, I am thinking for me, for myself, and for the student to be more and more intentional and upfront what we want to get from that experience. And for me, at least, in this moment of my teacher life, what I feel that I'm resonating more with in terms of what is it that I want to share with people. That has been more present for me lately, more than ever, actually. Now that over time, I'm finding more and more alignment in addressing certain things and realizing that I thrive in addressing these certain things, and not as much when I'm talking about other things. This has been changing. It's been going back and forth. This has been my moment right now. And I have been having the chance actually lately to be some people's first private lesson. Actually, tomorrow, I'm going to teach a private lesson for somebody who's taking a private for the very first time. And because I think we get so used to the private lesson mechanics and everything, we forget that for some people, when they're doing for the first time, they really don't know how it goes. They ask, it's my first one. How does it work? Do you tell me what to do? Do I tell you what I want? Do we dance? We don't dance? And I get the chance to think about it again. Oh, what is this for? How do we go about this? And then I tell the person, look, this is a moment for you. It's a moment that you can use to work on your dance in the way that you feel that you want to, that you want to improve more. And they tell me, but I don't know what I want to improve. So then I say, leave it to me then. Let's dance. And based on that dance, I'm going to tell you what I think would be interesting for you to work on. But I still try to get from them some idea of where they want to get to, like what is their current objective in the current moment of their journey. This person that I'm teaching, it's in the very beginning of the journey. And right now, for example, somebody that is in the very beginning that I don't see them coming to practice in any shape or form, sometimes I ask them to wait a little longer to do the private lesson. But this particular person has been coming to classes, has been coming to socials and to the practica. So I'm seeing that they are putting the time, that they are practicing the things from class. So I feel really excited to teach this private for them because I see and I know, we don't have to know, but I know that this person will come and practice afterwards. So that has been my biggest motivation right now, to see if the person is really going to practice these things we're talking about in the private lesson.
Yeah, it's amazing when we can teach somebody who is hungry. I love that. It's like, I want to teach you for the next 4 hours, even if you just pay me 1 hour, because it just feels so nice to share with somebody who is excited about learning and excited about exploring how to understand their body, how to understand the dance, and all of these things. For me, it's definitely my favorite type of private lesson. And at this stage of life, I've also got to a point that I want to spend my time with people that want to focus on the things that are dear to me, that are important to me. So yeah, the structure, the understanding of the dance or everything like that. So yeah, I also like to do that type of question, Q&A through message before we actually in the room. But when we're in the room, usually if we haven't had the chance to talk through message, yeah, I think it's very important to do a little Q&A in the first minute. And for those of you who are listening, who haven't done that in your private lessons as a student, please do that. Do a little Q&A with your teacher. As a teacher, what I do is I ask them, have you had a private lesson before? And then we go from there. Okay, so what would you like to work on? Maybe they already have a couple of things, maybe they don't. And then I go and I ask, what are the things that you think are working well in your dance? And what are the things that are not working well in your dance? Okay, then we go from there and we go like, well, do you have anything that you'd like to get to in the next few months or in the next year? Or you don't necessarily want to look that far ahead and you just want to stay in the present? And then we go from there and then we start dancing. Instead of just go like, oh, hello, let's have a dance, boom, boom, boom. And then mechanically, I can find a couple of things to fix. We fix them and then we finish the private lesson. But I didn't really connect with you. I didn't understand what makes you happy in the dance, what doesn't, and what are the things that you value the most or the least. I feel like I need to understand a little bit about the personal side, or better, I need to understand a little bit more about the person. And then I can work on the body of the dancer. There are so many things that they show in the body as mechanical, as physical, but they're actually more like personal and psychological. When people come to me and they're like, oh, my leading is like this or my following is like that. And I've done private lessons where I've spoken to a few people and they tell me that I have to improve this, improve that, improve this, improve that. All very technical and mechanical things. And then we dance, and then we talk, and then we dance again, and then we talk, ask a few questions. And then we get to the bottom of it. That, yes, mechanically, we need to work on a couple of things, but the real issue, the root of this whole problem that you see mechanically and physically is actually how you're approaching the dance mentally, or how you're approaching the connection mentally. How you are holding back, expressing yourself in a way that is not helping you in the dance. But it's what we're saying. What can private lessons do and what are they for? Because I think one of the biggest things is that private lesson is a moment for you to have anything happen. Any good, any bad, any funny, any awkward, anything, because there's no audience, nobody's there to judge, nobody's there to watch and look at you in a way that makes you feel pressured. It's the moment to mess up. It's the moment to try something, even if it doesn't feel like you can. Maybe like, oh no, I can't do that yet. I don't have the technique for that, or my body's not that strong. We'll try it. And then we'll see how to get there based on the failures that we may see. I wouldn't even call it failures, but based on the things that are not there yet that we can get to. Yeah. private lesson is something that I love as a student, and I love as a teacher as well. Because to me, it almost feels like an intensive with a group, but with one person.
Yeah, it is like an intensive, and exactly what I was going to say. And I think one of my biggest, I have two pet peeves in private lessons. One,
Oh, let's go there. Let's go there. We've been too nice. Let's go there.
Yes, I have to. No, but one is like, I've done this already, because it is like an intensive, it is like an intensive. So you get to the private lesson, and in 1 hour, depending on your level of expertise, experience, you get so much content. So let's say you do 3 hours. Oh my gosh, it's so much content. And then you go ahead and don't integrate that content. So the moment that you practice the thing was during the private lesson. And I have done that. I have done hours of private lesson on Lambada one time and learn so much stuff. I did not integrate. So a couple months went by. It's almost like I didn't do the private lesson at all. I forgot everything. So I would say, because it's an intensive, and because sometimes the amount of information you receive in terms of how much information you receive, and the depth sometimes of the information you received. So for example, I am teaching a private lesson weekly to someone, and the content was given on the first week. The way that content is understood and absorbed by the body is not necessarily the intention that I had in mind or the way that I conveyed. So the way that I said and the way that it's understood is different sometimes too. So it's good to go ahead and try the thing and then come back later and say, look, it's not working. And then I say, let me see what's happening. That's not what I told you. That's not what I said. Let's go again. Let's see it again. The thing is, that person is integrating and is coming back, reintegrating and coming back. So if you are, for example, someone who is taking a private lesson to fast track your learning, and you are getting a bunch of information in 1-2 hours, I don't know if it's good to do a long package in which you do many hours, because it's so much content that you might not have time to integrate and you will forget. Or if you're coming for a private lessons to deepen a knowledge of something, especially if it's about subtle skills, about touch, about connection, about perception, about adaptability, you need, I think, even more time for integration, because it's tuning into your body and to the awareness that you might have or might not have in deeper ways. So you do need more time. Yeah. And then you need a catch up or a follow up. Let's follow up on these things after I have tried to integrate a couple of times, So I think my first pet peeve is the lack of integration, the lack of time spent doing the thing we worked on this private lesson, this mini intensive that we have.
Yeah, when people say, I know, or I've done this, I'm like, okay, you've done this, but do you know it?
Yeah.
And then people say, oh, no, yeah, I know. I'm like, do you know? Because if you knew, we wouldn't be correcting this. If you knew, you wouldn't be having problems with this. So I think a lot of the times I understand that it's more of the way we speak. We just say, oh, yeah, no. Oh, yeah, I've done this. But I think it depends really on the attitude and how the person expresses themselves. I like to say that as a student, I come to the teacher and I say, look, I'm here to learn. I'm an open book. It doesn't matter if I've done this or if you think I'm good at this. If you think that I need to work on this, or if you think that you have something to share with me about this one thing, I'm happy to do it. And I would like to do it for the hour or two that we're here. Let's not jump into different things. No, I want to have you watch and help me through the integration. because to me, the integration moment is when I have all of the questions. So yes, I can learn something in 5 minutes, but when I go out and practice, that's when I try this and it doesn't work, and I tried that and it works. And then I'm like, but why does it work like this, but not like this? And then I can try to figure it out and break my brain, or I can have the teacher right there and the teacher can explain it to me. I always like to book at least a 2 hours private lesson because that's how my brain works. The first 30 minutes, I'm kind of like just arriving there, mentally speaking. And then I learn something, and then the rest is just integrating, repeating. And I think that that's just the way that works for me. But for people who are trying to improve their dancing, I often try to recommend, of course, this depends on how much you can afford and how much you want to spend in dancing. But at the very, very least, 2 private lessons a month, 1 private lesson a month. And my students are kind of used to this because they say, hey, Alisson, can I book a private lesson? I need a health checkup. Because I tell them, I say, look, I think everybody as somebody who is doing physical activities, training, martial arts, sports or something like that, you need to have a coaching session at least once a month to make sure that you are on track to achieve your goals, to make sure that you're not doing something that is going to pull back and, revert all the work that you've done. So I'd say once a month would be the very minimum. For those of you who want to really, really fast track, then you can go every 2 weeks or every 1 week. But with a caveat, you're not learning something completely new every lesson. What you're doing is you're integrating with the help of a teacher. So for people who have done weekly private lessons with me, yes, sometimes we're doing the same sort of family of technique. I wouldn't say like the same exact movement, but let's say we're working on viradinha. Yes, we're working on viradinha for a couple of weeks in private lesson. Just, how to work on this type of viradinha and the other one, and how to change angles, how to travel more, how to travel less, how to connect with somebody with a tighter frame, and how to connect with somebody with a more loose frame within the same movement. So adaptation, creativity, the structure, the way to get in and get out of it, how to dance to slow music, how to dance to fast music. So really, really integrating instead of doing like 1 private lesson a week. And every week is a whole new menu of like 10 dishes that in the end of the day, you're not really integrating. You're just trying new things. But what can you tell me in the last 3 months, what improved in your dancing? If you're learning something new every week, it's really hard. It's really hard.
It is. And this reminds me of a situation that we have here sometimes. And I still didn't talk about the second pet peeve. There's a second pet peeve coming up.
Let's go.
But before that, this reminds me when the private lesson is serving the purpose of filling a gap. Like there is a gap that you have, there is something you need to do that you don't have yet, and you do a private lesson to fill that gap. So for example, here in DC, in Washington DC, at District Zouk, we have several courses, progressive leveled courses. Sometimes the person misses 3 weeks of class, 4 weeks of class, and they want to go to the next level. And they think that a private lesson will fill that gap, will fill the gap of 3 hours. And then think with me, just the math of it. 3 hours of classes, they are about an hour and a half. Yeah. So this is 4 hours and a half of class time in which we have warm up and we have partner warm up. Then you dance with people. You rotate a bunch of times. You rotate with the teachers. You get input here, input here, input here, input here. You want to substitute that for 1 hour. For 1 hour. Even if it's with the teacher and everything, we miss the integration time. There's not enough time for you to integrate that content. So even if I get you the content of these 3 classes that you missed, you are receiving content, but you are receiving it, but you're not acquiring it, like embodying it. Even if you had come to the 3 classes, you might still not, be able to fully embody the thing. So there is a skill learned, and there is a skill, you learn the skill versus you embodied it, So for example, for me right now, if a private lesson has the desire to fill a gap, if it's more than 1 class missed, I said, not possible. Not possible. Unless the person is at a higher level of experience, in a case-by-case basis, that we see that for that particular person, it might work, a private lesson, and then practica, comes the social, and then comes the assessment again. Let's see how we are doing. In general, though, depending on the level, for example, somebody at the earlier levels of the curriculum, by experience, it's very difficult for you to substitute this amount of group lessons with 1 hour of a private lesson. So I have already, for me, case-by-case basis, in very exceptional cases, this will work. So coming back to the matter of integration, the matter of time, moving your body and dancing, especially in the early stages. Second pet peeve, I'm excited about this one, is when in a private lesson, we have the situation, I do like this because in salsa, that's how we do things. I do like this because, in ballroom, we move our hips this way. And then it gets even better when they want to show you how it is. That's how they get you. Let me show you. And then we lose a good 5 minutes just in the person justifying why they do the way they do because of the other dance, And it's not a pet peeve when it's the person says, God damn it, man, it's all the other dance in me still alive, but let's go. They mention it, and then we keep going.
Yeah, they recognize without using it as an excuse or without trying to convince you that something is good about it, or I don't know. I understand what you mean.
Exactly. So not a problem if the person says, man, in salsa we do like this. God damn it. Okay, let's go. Let me try. For me, the pet peeve is when it keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. There was a couple of privates, this was years ago, in which every private with the same person, I would learn the way something was done in salsa. Every private. He wanted to show with me how the thing was, and then we were losing some time. We were losing some precious time. And that became a pet peeve. It became a big one for me.
Because what are we focusing on? Right? We want to make sure that we spend all the time to give you the knowledge so you can integrate. And yes, a lot of the times I find it valuable to understand the dance that you come from.
Yes.
So both of us, we've done as many dance styles as possible in terms of other dances to experience the technique, but also to understand how to help people who come from that dance. That to me is the main reason why when I'm in a private lesson and I ask them, have you done any other dancing before? And they tell me, I've done this one. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Okay, because this one brings a lot of this and this one brings a lot of that. But there are a couple of things that, may mess up a little bit with your Zouk. But let's focus on the ones that can help your dance. For example, somebody who came from tango, they have some qualities that I'm like, please don't ever lose this. Somebody who came from West Coast swing or from salsa or from ballroom or something, there are qualities in those dances that if you learn from a great teacher, you will have. And I'm like, please don't just delete everything that you've learned before because people say, oh, Zouk is like nothing else. You have to forget everything that you've learned before. No, I don't agree with that, because specifically Brazilian Zouk, let's get real, people. Brazilian Zouk is a mix of almost every single dance under the sun. Okay?
It is the amalgamation of all things. Yeah.
Brazilian Zouk is like a huge smoothie of all the things that you can find in the market. So yes, we can cross reference things, and we can use qualities and techniques and ideas from other dances. We just need to understand how to bridge that gap and how to integrate that. And when the person is willing, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, because I'm like, okay, do you remember how you do this in tango? Yes. Now, feel like that, have that drive in your body, that woomph, but keep your body more like this, or keep your connection more like that. But the feeling is there. You know it. You know it. I don't have to teach you from scratch. But when the excuses come, I'm like, okay, let's just focus here, okay? Let's just focus, because I feel like you are focusing too much on the other dance style, and you're not right here, right now, focusing on this dance style that we're trying to improve on.
For me, what shows me is how much of an empty cup versus a full cup the person might be, Because sometimes they want the private, they want the help. Of course, they ask you, you booked the thing, the person is paying you the money, while at the same time, you can still notice a level of resistance. And sometimes the person might not be aware of these mechanisms that has been happening on the background, where the use of another dance experience as an excuse not to do a certain thing, or to do a certain thing in a certain way, gets in the way. I had this experience once that I was teaching, and the person kept talking about the other dance. It was kind of recently. And I just realized by the end of that class, I was not really able to convey the thing I thought was important, because it was consistently interrupted by why it was happening the way it was happening. Consistently. So for that hour, I was unable to fully convey the knowledge that I was excited, I was eager to convey, because we simply didn't have enough time to practice it, to integrate it together in that 1 hour. Because a long time was spent talking about why yes, why no, So I think a private lesson is most useful, and that will require some awareness. When you realize that you're ready to receive the content that you said you were looking for. Because as a teacher, I have been, and I don't know about you, Alisson, faced with a very interesting aspect of human nature, where the thing you say to the person is not what you are actually wanting, but what you might be thinking that the person wants to hear you say, based on what you think they're going to think is the right thing to be asked on a private lesson. I don't know if that makes sense. But sometimes people might come to you, Alisson, because it's you, and you ask, what do you want to work on? And they will say, I want to work on XYZ that they think you want to hear from them. But actually, they want to work on something else. And then when the content is presented, you can see that something is off. The level of engagement is not the same. The reception of the content is not the same. So I have been observing that more lately, because when I experience someone who is really connected to what they want to receive and what you can share with them, the whole process of teaching a private, it flows so nicely that it's like you said in the beginning, Alisson. The hour go by and you could stay another hour with that person easy. Easy, because there is that alignment. So what a private lesson is for in this sense, and how to make the best out of it, I would say getting alignment with how much you can receive in terms of amount of information, or in terms of assessment of your dance, the depth of it, how much space you have to hear the feedback from the teacher, and be really in alignment of what you're saying being actually what you want. It seems like so like in front of our noses, but it's not that obvious, really not. And that's something that I have observed lately, not only in private lessons though, in general, but in private lessons, it's like you said, it's just you and the person, and there's no escape. You are the only witness of each other, so you can see that something is happening over there, you know? And the other element to it is when in the private lesson, the person gets surprised by the content. They thought was something, but then you give the thing they thought it was, and they're surprised by how different it is, or by how much time it takes or how much effort it requires. Effort in terms of time and attention. I had this surreal private lesson experience where the person was wanting to really get, they wanted to really understand the aura, like my aura, my magic. They wanted to understand it. Like, tell me what you're doing. I really want to get what you're doing. And then I told, this is what I'm doing. And they could not believe. They would say, no, this I can get with another teacher. Tell me what only you do. And I said, this is what I do. This is exactly what I do. No more, no less. They could not believe. It was this surreal experience of me trying to convince the person that this is it. This is what I do. I'm giving you the secret. Here, I open the book. I'm reading it to you. No. You couldn't believe.
Yes, you are. Yes, I am Alisson. Believe me. You're not talking to an AI copy version of me. This is it. Okay? Trust the words that come out of my mouth. Unfortunately, guys, there are a lot of teachers, not just in dance, but teachers of things around the world that hold back information. They do. I've experienced that. I've seen that growing up in the partner dance scene. There are teachers who hold back information, and they might tell you that it is what it is, but it's not. I get it. But for teachers that you know their reputation and you know how honest they are, believe when they'll tell you something honestly. What you're saying about like how to best use a private lesson, I think that's it. Really be open. Be open or be specific. What I mostly experience is people who are very open. They're just like, I'm here because my friend told me that I have to do a private lesson with you. It's usually like that. They're like, oh yeah, my friend told me I have to because you are going to give me some good stuff to work on that other teachers will not. Or I'm here because I've tried to learn many things from various different people and I still find that I'm not there, but somebody recommended you and they told me that you can fix it. So it's usually very open-ended, not specific enough. But I do love when it's very specific, even when they're not at the level. Let's say, hey, I want to learn how to do one leg spins. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Let's work on a couple of things after the Q&A and let's work on a couple of things. And I can feel like, okay, this is not going to happen in 1 hour. So then I'm very honest with them. I said, look, I can absolutely give you the tools that you need to work on for the level that you are right now. And we can probably get, something working by the end of the hour. But I want to be honest with you. This is something that takes time, not just understanding it, but physically building the strength in your ankle, in your core, or in your frame to do that. And to be able to use muscles that maybe they are strong enough, but you don't know how to communicate with those specific muscles yet. Like I, as an experienced dancer that I am, there are some muscle things that if I go to a certain different dance style, the teacher is going to say, hey, do this. And I'm like, how? How do you move your hips like that? Like, I don't have that muscle conversation yet developed. So I can give you the tools, but I'm going to be very honest and tell you that there's probably a limit of how much we can do in the hour. And I just want to let you know ahead of time. And there has been times where the student came to me and said, oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, I didn't realize that. So never mind. No, let's not do the spins. Let's work on something else because, I don't care too much about it right now. I can take my time later. I prefer to learn something that I can really understand in this hour. And then boom, we pivot, we do something. Having that conversation and being open and being honest as a teacher and as a student is so crucial because, guys, we hear a lot of feedback from our students when they go and take a private lesson at a festival or a weekender and they come to us and say, oh man, I took a private lesson with this teacher. And I'm like, oh, I feel like there's something you want to tell me. They're like, yes. Oh man, like in the first 5 minutes, I already knew it wasn't going to go well. I'm like, but why? Why? What happened? Oh, I told them I wanted this and then they just told me I needed something else and then they just went with it. Or they told me that, hey, why don't you learn this? You're already good at everything else. Let me teach you something new. When they came to actually just drill and improve on what they know or kind of learn a few variations of what they know, and the teacher just went away from it. And then I tell them, I said, look, I'm sorry that happened to you. I hope that teacher will learn to listen to the students better. But you need to say something, And often the students say, oh, no, I don't want to upset the teacher. They know better. Sure. Thank you for the respect. Thank you for the appreciation for the hard work and the knowledge that we have. But we don't know what's going on in your head. There's no way we can know that. We know everything that we know, but we don't know what we don't know. And you are the one who can tell us what we don't know. So you can say, look, I understand that you think I can work on this or this would be good for me. But in this lesson, I would really like if you could at least touch this other subject as well. And as teachers, we can blend. We can go, okay, no problem. This is what you want. This is what I want. Let's put them together and let's do a beautiful hour of integration of both sides of it. If your teacher is not willing to do that, if you're going to teachers who are not doing that, then I'm sorry, but you need to find new ones. You need to find other teachers. Like if you're going to the barber and the barber keeps screwing up your cut and you've tried your best to tell them, I like this, and they keep changing it, go to a new barber. Like, please.
That's why nobody touches my beard, my friend. I gave up a long time ago. Nobody touches this but myself, because I've tried so many things. Yeah, I understand. I've had similar situations in which somebody who was just beginning wanting to learn head movements, like a follower, teach me some head movements. And then we go through this conversation. Look, in 1 hour, what we can do is that I can give you drills. I can watch you doing these drills. We can do a video. And I show you the mechanics. So you repeat these mechanics in a way that you're not going to reinforce a bad habit that is going to hurt your body in the future. Something that I find really inspiring to do, actually. I like to do that. I like to give people training ideas, training drills for stuff that they want to work on that is at a higher level of complexity, for example. The other thing I wanted to mention about that is when we arrive for the private lesson and there is more open-ended and the person says, I want to get better. My invitation is to let the person tell me what better for you mean. And then we go into a conversation of what better means, because sometimes we go into the private lesson almost by inertia to get better. We want to get better without a full understanding of what getting better is, in what area, how much, there is just a better word being thrown.
If we go to a massage, right? Sorry to interrupt, but I feel like this happens a lot in massage for myself. I go for a massage and I tell them what I would like to, but I never interrupt them to tell them like, hey, I want more of this, unless they ask in the middle.
Yes.
Because for them, what's better for your body, it's different from what I think is better for my body in that moment. Like, I would like more of this, but they think, because of their expertise, that my body needs more of that. So then we can bridge if we voice. So as a teacher, ask throughout the lesson, is everything okay? Are you happy with the content? Are we going in the direction that makes you understand this and feel happy about this? I ask this every 15, 20 minutes in the lesson to just double check. But if your teacher is not, please, as a student, you can interrupt and say, hey, I have a question about something here, and this might change the private lesson a little bit, but I would like to really focus on this question for a moment. And then you go. It's not rude to change the topic. It's more like sharing to them that you still have a question about something and you'd like to do it again.
Yeah, because there are so many areas. There are so many areas we can work on. And getting clarity of that area really, really helps, in situations like this where I want to get better comes and I ask, what does get better mean to you? Sometimes after that moment of reflection, the person realizes that they want to work on their footwork, or they want to work on their musicality, or they want to work. So then just by asking that question, what get better means, brings the topic up, So that's the invitation that I leave for you. When you're thinking about taking a private lesson, you're thinking about probably getting better at something, and get clarity of what that getting better can help so much to direct that hour or more that you have with your teacher. And like Alisson said as well, with the example of the barber that I said, nobody touches his beard, is because really nobody does, because I went from barber to barber and they really don't understand the purpose of having the beard this long, because I dance. And if the beard is at a certain length, it starts poking people. So if I had a barber that is also a dancer, probably that person would understand. And the idea here is, when you do a private lesson with somebody, you are getting insight on the background of that teacher as well. Like, what is behind the information that the teacher is giving you? And based on that, you're going to find the teachers that you resonate more or less with because of what is behind the information. I've had a very revealing experience one time where I was teaching a private lesson to a follower, and then I realized that something was happening about their weight distribution, the weight transfer, because she was losing balance in certain moments, and I realized it was something about the weight transfer. And then I told her to manage the weight transfer in this position, and then balance was there. And then she told me that in a previous private lesson, the teacher told her that she was losing balance because she had weak ankles, and it was not the weak ankle thing. It was really, she was shifting weight too fast going forward, and because of that, she couldn't hold balance over there because of the momentum. So then she took a step forward, which would cause her to rush and be off timing and all these things, and then just keeps piling up. And then the teacher said that she was not engaging her core enough and her ankle was not strong enough. So when she told me that, and she told me who the teacher was, everything made sense to me. Because it's someone who comes from a perspective of learning how to dance and teach a dance that is more related to getting the body physically more prepared, in the sense of you squeeze this muscle and then you make this muscle stronger and this stuff. Yeah. I am coming from a perspective of teaching regular classes where I see several bodies like her body in class. So then you learn how to navigate different ways that the person can arrange the movement, that they find balance, they find ease of motion that is not necessarily related to engaging this or that muscle, having this muscle weak and that muscle strong, So So a person with weak ankles, they can still dance. You know what I mean? And that's the idea. But I didn't judge the teacher that said what they said, because that's the information they have. That's how they address the thing. So it's really interesting for you to maybe do a private lesson with different teachers and see the one you resonate most with, because that will make your life so much easier, you know? And you will also be getting like information that is coming from a similar source, that is coming from the same source, and you get more, let's say, stability with that content, more consistency with that content, like understanding that DNA, getting a better sense of it, and then maybe you branch out and you go to other teachers, you know? So these were the last two pieces that I wanted to share. The understanding of what the getting better means, in what area and how. And the second thing is, as you go and doing private lessons, also seeing the teacher you resonate most with. Yeah, and it's okay to do private lessons just with that teacher for a while, you know?
Yeah, a little shortcut to that is to go to their classes in a festival or a weekender. You know, in a festival, you can kind of already have that feeling of like, okay, this teacher breaks things down and they do things in a way that makes sense to me. They take their time, they listen to the students, or this teacher rushes through things. They're just teaching the move and not really paying attention to the people in the class. And you don't go and take private lessons with somebody famous just because they're famous. That doesn't mean they're good teachers. So go and take a class with somebody and like really try to get that feeling of like, can they help me? It's not like they don't know what you want to know, but can they transfer that knowledge to you in a way that is going to help you? That's a different thing. And maybe a different topic for another day. So hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. And if it has, please help us by following, subscribing, and visiting our channels and sharing with a friend. We also have our website that we're working on, ZoukNerds.com. So please visit. By the time this is out, there should be some stuff for you guys to see there. Help us support so we can continue growing and having more guests here in the future. So thank you so much, everybody. Beijos, beijos, abraços, and ciao.
Bye, everyone.